Hey YouTube, this is Marcus with another video. Today's video is going to be a sort of introduction to programming. If you have any programming experience at all, this is probably not going to be the video series for you, but I actually had a request from a younger friend of mine wanting me to do some videos on how to program. So I am going to be using Python to sort of give a very basic level introductory lesson on computer programming. Today's video just has a couple of major goals: to explain what programming languages are, to get Python downloaded and installed if you don't already have it, and to write a very basic program to show you how to print things on screen and how to store things as variables. So before we continue with actually doing any programming, you need to understand what programming languages are. Programming languages are basically just layers on top of binary code that make it easier for humans to write programs quickly and efficiently. Computers speak binary. They don't speak Python or C# or anything like that. Computers speak binary. But it is very time consuming and labor intensive for people to write programs in binary form. In the olden days, that's how things were done. You had to program with binary code, and before you were even typing zeros and ones on screen, people were manually programming with binary code with actual toggle switches on old school computers. And as time has gone on, we have progressed and we've come up with more easily accessible ways to write programs that just get translated into binary code when the computer actually runs those programs. So, think of a programming languages as just a form of API. It's a layer that is easier for you as a human to understand and work with than binary code that just gets translated to binary code when the computer actually executes your program. Now, to move on, we actually need to get Python installed. If you're doing this on Linux, all you should really have to install is the idle editor. It's IDLE. We're going to be using Python 3, so you're going to need to install the idle editor for Python 3. There are some differences in syntax between Python 2 and 3, so if you want to follow along with my videos on this subject, you're going to need to install Python 3's idle editor. If you're on Windows systems, you can just go to python.org and go to the download area and click on whatever version of Python 3 it has installed, and it actually comes with the Python editor included in that installation. Alright, so now that you have Python installed, go ahead and open it. If you do not have the idle package installed, if you're running Linux, you may have to install the additional idle editor for Python in order to use that editor. Idle is just the editor that comes with Python if you install it on Windows systems. If you're running Linux, I believe idle is its own separate package you have to install. If you're running Windows and you've installed Python, you should have an icon for idle either in your start menu or maybe even on the desktop. So go ahead and open idle, and what you'll be presented with is actually just a little white empty window, maybe with some information up at the top of it. This is the idle editor. Now, there are two windows to the idle editor. This first window that comes up is basically just sort of a command line interface for Python. You can run commands here, run Python commands, and it will execute them in this window directly. But you cannot save what's in this window. But we can use it to experiment with learning some Python commands. So, the first thing you're going to do is you see how you've got three little arrows and then just a cursor. What you're going to write is you're going to write print, P-R-I-N-T, space, then left parenthesis, quotation mark, hello world, exclamation point, and then you're going to put an ending quotation mark and a right parenthesis. Now, and then just hit enter. And it should print hello world on the next line. Now we can look at this command that we just ran and you can see what's going on. The first thing that's happening is we're issuing the command print. Now print requires what's called arguments. Out from print you can see how we start a bracket with a left parenthesis. Everything that's going to be printed is going to be enclosed in those parentheses. So if we, for example, had anything after those parentheses, it would not get printed. So we have to enclose everything we're going to print in those parentheses. And since we just want to print a string of text, we just put the string of text that we wanted to print in quotation points. And then we closed everything off. We close quotation, close bracket, and then when we hit enter, it actually executed the command. Now let's say you want to do some math with your Python. Math is something that's very important when it comes to programming. So let's go ahead and just type in a random equation. Just type 1 plus 1 and hit enter. And it will give you the answer to the problem that you've entered. Alright, so one very important part of programming is the use of what's known as variables. Variables are just a way of storing information for use later in the program. Variables can be used to store numbers, strings of text, whatever you want to store in them. So we're going to go ahead and create our first variable. We're just going to ask the user what their name is. So we're going to start by just writing out whatever you want the variable to be named. Since we're asking the user what their name is, we're just going to name it name. So we're going to say name equals input, because we're telling Python how we're going to get the value of variable name. So it's going to be name equals input, left parenthesis, quotation mark, and now you can enter whatever string you want to appear on screen. You can just type, what is your name? This is what the user is going to see to prompt them for input. So you're going to say name equals input, left parenthesis, quotation mark, what is your name, quotation mark, right parenthesis to close everything out. And when you hit enter, it should ask you, what is your name? Exactly as you typed it in here. So you can go ahead and enter your name when it asks and hit enter. And it should return you to just a blank command entry line. That means that it has stored whatever you entered here as the value of variable name. So let's say we wanted to return the value of this variable. We can just say print quotation mark, left quotation, name, and name is not going to be in quotation marks because it's not a string. We don't want it to just print the word name. We want it to print the value of a variable that already exists somewhere else in the system. So we're going to say print left parenthesis name right parenthesis and then hit the enter key, and it should print whatever you entered as the value of variable name. Alright, so hopefully that was enough to get you started, to familiarize you with exactly what programming languages are and why there's different ones. It's just different ways to accomplish the same task of issuing commands to the computer in a format that is easier for human beings to understand than zeros and ones on a screen. Hopefully this sort of got you started with Python, and I will try to make more videos to follow up on this sort of introduction to Python. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, or suggestions, or if there's any part of this video that you didn't really understand very well, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, or message me privately, and I will get to you as I can. And as always, this is Marcus out. Y'all have a good one.